Hello there, I'm the Biblical Translator, and I call myself that only because I look at the Bible, try to translate it in modern terms, and so it's easy to understand in your language. Now, it's just my interpretation, so it's each to their own. I'm not saying my way is the right way, it's just another way of looking at it. So, we're looking at Mark 4, verse 10. And it says, he had healed many people that day, so all the sick people eagerly pushed forward to touch him. And whenever those possessed by evil spirits caught sight of him, the spirits would throw them to the ground in front of him, shrieking, "You are the Son of God." But Jesus sternly commanded the spirits not to reveal who he was. Now, what image that conjures up is, like when there's a sale and there's only one left and people are kind of pushing. It reminds me of the carnival when people are just, there are so many people and people are getting crushed and pushed, overlooked. And then it also reminds me of a concert where people are trying to see the star, the pop star, whoever that star is. And it is that urgency where people want to see Jesus, where people want to see him perform miracles, and you'll have all kinds of people. It's just like when you see any crowd, whether they're protesting, whether they're celebrating, whether it's to do entertainment. When there's a lot of crowd going to the same place, you do not know who is among that crowd. You'll have the good and you'll have the bad, but you are with them. And so when the evil spirits, I'm not quite sure who those evil spirits are, but they could be like when we had the artist where they had somebody throw a bomb in the midst. I can't remember her name, in Manchester. It'll come back to me. But you'll have people like that who try to spoil things. And these good spirits were saying, look, you evil people can't stay here. This is the Son of God you are before. So therefore, you need to behave yourself. But Jesus was saying, look, don't broadcast it. Don't broadcast that I am the Son of God. So even though he was there performing miracles, doing good, people were there crowding, the crowds were there to see what he was capable of doing, Jesus didn't want it announced loudly. He didn't want people to know he was the Son of God because he knew what would come with that title. People would start questioning him. People would start asking him to prove himself. So he didn't want that title. He doesn't mind them pushing the evil spirits outside the space, but don't call him out, basically. And I was thinking about those people who try to stop evil and they take the blame for people who do evil. And I'm not quite sure why that came to me, but I was watching a movie last night and there was a young girl who was a virgin, and she was being pursued by two men. And one of the men gave up on her because her mother didn't want her to be associated with him because he was poor. The other one was quite well off, but the girl didn't fancy him. Anyway, he had the duty of escorting her home. And as he was escorting her home, because she rejected him, he got the hump and he let her walk off by herself. As she was walking off by herself, somebody raped her. He came afterwards, and his face was the face she remembered. So she believed that he raped her. Would you believe he took that burden on, that he was the rapist, because he didn't want her not to know who the person was who raped her? Turns out she was pregnant and a whole heap of stuff. But I was just thinking how Jesus takes on our burdens. Jesus takes on our sins. And we all have a part of us that takes on something that doesn't belong to us due to the charity of our nature or just the person we are. But when I'm not quite sure how this relates to the evil spirits though, because it was the evil spirits that prompted me to think about the people that take on the sins of other people. So when the good spirits pounced on the evil spirits to stop them from, I'm not quite sure what they were going to do. I don't know if they were going to try to attack the master. I don't know what they were going to do. But when they jumped on him and pushed him to the ground and said, "You are the Son of God," why did they feel they needed to say that? Were they trying to protect Jesus from something? Were they trying to alert the evil spirits not to go there? That one is quite baffling for me, because there's a reason why. There's a connection there somewhere, but I just can't think what the connection is. But what I'm saying to you today is basically that when we are among people, we have to be very conscious about who is among us. You know, we were all given a spirit of discernment. Some people exercise it, some people don't. Some people still misjudge even when they try to use it. But we're all given a spirit of discernment. And I think what that passage is showing is that if there are evil people around, that there will be somebody, whether it's God or an angel or whatever, will be there to protect you. Will be there to stop those evil spirits getting close to you. Because it was the good spirits that threw down the evil spirits. So I would say that what that is saying is that as children of God, we will be protected. Nobody can get in our space. And yes, sometimes it might not be apt to speak out about the power of the Most High. I'm not quite sure why, because I'm not quite sure why Jesus didn't want to be acknowledged as the Son of God in that moment, unless, like I said, he didn't want to be even more popular. He didn't want even more crowds to come. And he said it quite sternly. But the reason why I think it's probably because he didn't want to draw too much attention is because any time he created a miracle, he made them promise not to say anything to anyone. And what did they do? They went off and said something. They spread the word. And maybe it's a similar thing. He didn't want people to think that he was blasphemous. He knows the consequences in those times of saying, "I am the Son of God." It is considered blasphemy. How dare you? Who are you? How can you say you're the Son of God, the Most High? And those people saw God as the Almighty. And yet there is this human in their midst claiming to be the Son of God. So therefore, he didn't want those consequences of the spirits saying that, even though he knew it was true, because he knew what would come with it. They were already plotting to kill him anyway, just based on the miracles. Can you imagine? And even when he was on the cross, they were trying to get him to admit it. So, yeah, it's sometimes we have to learn to keep things to ourselves. As much as we would like to shout the Lord's name out loud, and as much as we would like to claim ourselves as Christians, there's a time and a place. And I think the main message here is just be careful who you are around, and just be careful what you say, who you say it in front of, and who you acknowledge, and in front of whom. And I'm going to stop it there. If this makes any sense, please let me know. I'm the Biblical Translator on YouTube. Please subscribe, share and like.